Hey guys, before we start, I want to point out one thing. In this video, I did not discharge the monitor before we worked on it, and some would say that this is incorrect, okay? Now, I didn't do this for a couple of reasons. One, we were not working on the high voltage part of this monitor, okay, which is right here. We were focusing mostly on the deflection board, which is this board, and the chassis transistors, okay? And also, I was very careful when I was removing the neck, okay? So I didn't really feel a need to discharge the monitor. And also, I did not have what might have been the proper tool to discharge this monitor. Now, this is a Wells Gardner 6100 color vector monitor, and some people say that this monitor is self-discharging, meaning you don't really technically need to discharge this monitor if that's true. Now, I've been unable to really verify if this is a self-discharging monitor or not, so the alternative is to discharge it properly with either an HV probe, a high voltage probe, or with a discharging tool, a screwdriver with a wire and an alligator clip, with an inline resistor. Now, I had neither one of those on hand, so I didn't even bother discharging it, okay? Now, in a following video, though, not this video, the next video, when we work on this monitor, I will have an HV probe, because I ordered one online. And really, that's probably the safest and the smartest way to go about discharging this monitor. But because I didn't have one on hand, I didn't bother, and I was very careful, and we were not working on the HV part. So keep in mind, though, when watching this video, that we probably should have discharged the monitor first before working on it, and we will cover that in the next video, and I will show you guys how to properly discharge a 6100 monitor with an HV probe. And this also will apply especially to black and white vector monitors, because those are the monitors for sure where you need to use an HV probe or a discharging tool with an inline resistor, because you can basically fry the HV diode, I guess that's in this tube. And that also kind of applies with the 6100, assuming that it's not self-discharging, which really nobody can agree on the internet. So anyway, just keep in mind, we should have discharged the monitor first, and we'll cover that in the next video. So if you guys do this work, you really should discharge the monitor first. All right, let's start. Hey guys, we are in the basement. Today we're gonna do a tech video. That is right. If you guys remember in my last couple of videos, my Tempest Cabaret, my Mini was down, and my monitor in that was dead. I was blowing a fuse F700. Now, I determined that the issue I was having was a monitor issue and not a board issue, because essentially the game was playing blind, okay? I would turn the game on and there would be no picture, okay? But the game, you could start the game, you could press one player and start it, you could hear the sounds. The game was playing what we call blind, okay? Now, if the board has an issue, if it's putting out improper voltages to the monitor, the board can actually take out that fuse. So what I did was I unplugged the PCB and then turned the game on, and it was still blowing the fuse. So I knew that the issue I was having was with the monitor and not the PCB. Now, the monitor that comes with this game is a Wells Gardner 6100. It is a vector monitor, it's a color monitor, it's an XY monitor. This monitor you will find in Space Duel, Gravitar, Tempest, of course, Star Wars. You might find it in some major Havoc conversions. Atari used this monitor a lot in all of their color vector games. Now, there's a couple known kind of weaknesses or areas that you should kind of look first on these monitors. One is these transistors, okay? These frame chassis transistors. These go bad, and when they go bad, you can get all kinds of different symptoms. You can have fuses that are blowing. You can have part of the picture missing. You know, the top or the bottom or the left and the right could be missing. And a lot of times replacing these transistors will fix a lot of problems. The other area that is a problem on these boards is over here in the low voltage area, okay? Now, somebody had already rebuilt this low voltage section here, and I don't think that that's my problem, because the symptoms I'm having don't seem like the low voltage problems. I don't see any burnt up parts. Everything's been replaced. I have not checked any of these diodes. You can't really check them in circuit. You need to remove them. But I just have a hunch that that's not my problem. Now, they do make a board, if I can find it, called the LV2000, and also Mark Spaeth makes one called the LV6100, and it's a little drop-in board that goes right here that replaces all of these parts, because this is a big weakness on this game. But again, I don't think that's my problem. I think the problem is the transistors. So today, off camera, I've been testing my transistors, and I want to kind of show you guys how to test a transistor. And you can test the transistors actually with them on the monitor, but first I want to just kind of show you just the basics of testing them. So let me get set up here and I'll show you guys how to do that. Okay, actually, before we move on, though, I do want to show you the little LV2000 board, and that's this board right here. If you just go on Google and search for LV, which stands for low voltage 2000, or LV6100, which Mark Spaeth makes, you will find these little boards. And these boards here basically go in this part of the board right in here, and it basically is designed to replace all of these kind of weak parts. This was not a well-designed circuit, I guess, and this little board here plops in there, replaces, you know, a whole bunch of parts, and then that fixes a lot of issues. And it is recommended that you do this little mod to your 6100. It's kind of a way to bulletproof it, if you will. But I'm not going to do that today in this video. We're not going to address the LV2000 or the low voltage part. We're only interested in the transistors in this video. So anyway, why don't I show you guys how to test a transistor on the table here, and we'll go from there. Okay, guys, we're all set up here, and here is our transistor, okay? And you're going to find two different flavors of these in your 6100 monitor. This is the 2N3792, and you also will find the 2N7316. Now, these are two kind of opposite type of transistors. One is a PNP, one is an NPN, and they kind of read the opposite of each other, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a second here. So anyway, this is a 2N3792, okay? And these transistors have two legs here and a metal body, okay, a metal frame, right? And the transistors are not symmetrical. And what I mean by that is that these two legs, these pins, are off-center, okay? They are, you know, they are more up on this side. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they're not directly centered in the body here, okay? And this is how we kind of determine what is what. So if we hold it like this, you'll notice that they are favoring this side. They're higher on this side, okay? Now I'm just going to put it on the piece of paper there like so, okay? Now, I am using information from the 6100 FAQ. Okay, this is a fantastic document that was written by, I don't even know who, a bunch of older collectors who are way smarter than me. And these guys have basically written this document that is kind of the Bible for the 6100 monitor. And I really want you guys to seek this document out. Just do a search for 6100 FAQ. Okay, and I printed out a few pages of it, the pages that matter for me right now for testing transistors, and they cover all of this here. It says chassis transistors. There are two types of the large chassis deflection transistors on the Wells Gardner. They are the 6 large TO3 package transistors. TO3 is kind of like the form factor, I guess, you know, with the 2 pins and these 2 screws right here. The 3 MPNs are 2N3716, and the 3 PNPs are 2N3792s, which are all in the final stage of the deflection amplifier. I'm trying to see if it talks a little bit about, it does talk about symptoms here. So what symptoms do we get, okay? So if one of the deflection transistors goes bad, then you will lose that corresponding half of the screen, okay? For example, if Q705 went bad in a Tempest game, you'll be missing the top half. It will not actually be gone. It will be collapsed into a line, okay? So when you hear about horizontal collapse, vertical collapse, the transistors are going to be what's causing this type of stuff on these monitors, okay? It also goes on to talk about if more than one chassis transistor goes on either the power, Q103 or Q102, you'll get no picture, okay? Because the spot killer comes on. So you could see there's all kinds of things that can be happening with the monitor, and it could be because one of these transistors is bad. And it's not a bad idea to change these, okay? But I'm going to show you how to test them first, okay? And again, I'm using all the information from the 6100 FAQ to do all of this, okay? And so if you go here, they have in Appendix F, it says testing transistors with a digital multimeter. And we're going to follow these instructions right here to test this transistor, okay? And remember how I said that, you know, the transistor is kind of it's not you know, it's kind of off center. These pins are off center in here. It's not symmetrical, okay? So they're up higher on this side. They're north of the middle right here, okay? And in the 6100 FAQ here, they show you a little diagram, okay? So this, when you hold it like this with the two pins north of the middle, okay? The left one is the base, the right one is the emitter, and the case, this whole piece of metal here, is the collector, okay? So I'm going to take my transistor here, and we're going to put it on this piece of paper. I'm just going to go ahead and label them, okay? So right now, the center's here, and these pins are north of the center, so that means that this one over here is the base, this one on this side here is the emitter, and then the collector is the metal case, okay? So it's easy to remember the metal case is the collector, okay? And the emitter is east, okay? And then, so just remember that, collector is the case, the emitter is east, and then just, you know, by default, the left one is the base, okay? So I'm going to just read from the document, and we're going to follow it to test this transistor, okay? Now I have a transistor here. We're going to put it on diode test, which is that little symbol right there, okay? And you want to take your leads here. We got a positive and a negative, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and read from the FAQ, and we're going to just do what it says, okay? It says set your meter to the diode test, okay? Connect the red meter lead to the base of the transistor. And by the way, I'm going to write this down here. This is a 2N3792, which is a PNP type transistor. Okay, so let's go here, and we're going to put our red, I'm just reading the instructions here. Connect your red meter lead to the base and connect the black to the emitter, okay? And it says a good NPN, okay, this is a PNP. It says a good PNP will read open, so we should basically get no reading, okay? Oh, look, I did that wrong. The red goes on the base and the black goes on the emitter, okay? And we get no reading there, okay? You see that? There's no reading, okay? So then it says, leave the red meter on the base and place the black on the collector, okay? And we should get the same exact reading, which is no reading, okay? And we're not getting a reading, okay? So now it says, reverse the leads in your hand. This time, connect the black meter lead to the base and put the red on the emitter, and it says that a good PNP transistor will read a junction drop voltage of between 0.45 and 0.9. So we should get a reading between 0.45 and 0.9. And we're getting, looks like about 0.6, 0.59. Yeah, we're getting about 0.6, okay? And then it says connect the red meter lead to the emitter, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now it says leave the black meter on the base and move the red to the collector. Okay, so we're going to keep the red on the base and the black on the collector, and we should get the same exact reading, and we are, which is about 0.60. Okay, now what we should do is we want to place 1 meter lead on the collector and the other on the emitter. Okay, so the emitter's over here, so I'm going to put one on the collector and one on the emitter. Okay, and we should read open, which is no reading, and we're getting no reading. And then we should reverse these, and we should also get open, and we are no reading. Okay, so that transistor has passed the test. It did everything it was supposed to. Okay, so that's how you test a transistor. Okay, and now we're going to apply this to our monitor. Okay, and there's some little tricks that I kind of figured out here. I'm going to show you guys in a second. But anyway, all of this, again, is in Appendix F of the 6100 FAQ. Everything that I just did, I read directly from the FAQ, so it's really not that hard once you know what the base is, what the emitter is, and what the collector is, and if you're dealing with a PNP or you're dealing with an NPN. And it does talk about that in here. On page 25, it says the 2N3716 is an NPN type, and the 2N3792 is a PNP type. Okay, so now why don't we take what we just learned, and let's go apply it to my monitor. Okay, so here's our 6100. Now, if we were to look on page 26 of the FAQ, there's a little diagram right here, like that, okay? And this shows you where these 6 transistors are, okay? There is 2 over here on this side-angled piece. You can see there's one right there, and there's one behind it, okay? And then there are 4 on the bottom of the monitor, okay? There's 4 right here. And by the way, they are Q705, Q102, Q103, Q706. And then on the side over here, on this side over here is Q605 and Q606. So when you're reading the FAQ, it's going to be talking about these different transistors, and here's the little map telling you where they are. Again, this is on page 26 of the FAQ. So we want to start testing these transistors, okay? Now I have replaced some of these transistors because I did have some collapse on my game, and well, I just read the FAQ. I saw which transistors were responsible for the type of collapse that I had, and I replaced those, and it fixed it, okay? So I know already that I replaced a bunch of these, but I didn't replace all of them. And so I suspect, and actually I know because I'll show you guys, but I've been working on this today. So let me show you what's going on here. Okay, so we have 2 transistors on this side right here, okay? They're right there. See them? And then we also have 4 on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just lift up my monitor here, and we're just going to rest it on the desk so we can get to the bottom. Okay, and there you go. Now, so today I was working on this, and I was testing these transistors, and I have to admit I was getting a little overwhelmed, okay? I mean, I knew what to do, you know, I knew, you know, the base, the collector, the emitter, but it was just like, I'm looking at all this, there's wires, there's all kinds of stuff, so I decided to label everything from the bottom so I knew what I was doing while I was reading the FAQ, okay? So you can see here, this one right here is Q103, and it's a 9-2 PNP transistor, okay? And I went ahead and I labeled it base, collector, and emitter, okay? So now I can test it from underneath and I don't have to worry. Also, one thing extremely important that I failed to mention here, and I can mention it really quick. Before you attempt to test the transistors while they are in the monitor, you need to disconnect them from the chassis, okay? You need to get them out of the circuit, okay? Because you cannot test diodes. Transistors are essentially like a series of diodes. You cannot test them in circuit. You need to remove them from the circuit. And if you disconnect all these little red plugs all over the monitor, you will be removing them from the circuit. Because this plug right here, if you look, is actually, it goes right to these 2 transistors right here, okay? And 3 wires are for one transistor, the yellow, green, and red, and 3 are for the other transistor. So by unplugging this plug right here, which I think is P900, it will disconnect Q606 and Q605 from the circuit, and then you could test these while they're in the game as long as you unplug this. And if you're not sure which one is which, go ahead and unplug everything. However, I want you to document what you're doing, okay? Take photos, make sure you don't screw it up. I put notes on the monitor here, like this is black, this is white, this one's brown. I labeled some of these with numbers so I know where they go. Like I wrote on this one, see that 3 lines? And I wrote a 3 on the connector, just so I didn't get them mixed up. So when you do disconnect all this stuff, it's okay to disconnect it, but you got to remember what you disconnected and where it was, okay? And because when it comes time to putting it back together, you got to put it back in the right spot. But you cannot test these transistors unless you disconnect them from the circuit, okay? All right, so, and it's not hard to. You can just look at them and follow the wires, and they'll go to a plug, and just unplug that. Okay, so anyway, let's turn this back around here. And so you can see here I've got the bottom of the monitor, and we've got all of our 4 transistors, Q103, Q705, Q102, Q706. And you can see here I wrote some notes. I replaced this one on December 21st, and this one, and I replaced this one also on December 21st. And that was for my party. My party was the 21st, and so my buddy Jay came over here, we replaced these 3 transistors, and we got the game going. But I still wanted to test them again today because the game is now dead. Now, I did not replace Q103, okay? And if you look up here, I didn't replace either of these either. So I really was suspicious of all the ones I didn't replace, and I wanted to test them. And then I also took some notes here, and I put them on the monitor. The blue and green wires go to the base, okay? So basically, on here, if we look, I'm just going to kind of show you the scheme that's going on, because once you understand how this works, it makes it easier to get your head around all this. So this right here is a 9-2 transistor, which is a PNP. You can see the white, purple, and blue wires go to that one, okay? And then over here is a 16 NPN transistor, okay? And the green, red, and yellow go to that one, okay? So, on all of the 2N3716 transistors, you're going to encounter green, red, and yellow wires, and that's for all of them, okay? And if you look here on my note, the green on those is base, the yellow on those is the emitter, and the red is the collector, okay? And then on all the 2N3792s, okay, they're all going to use, again, blue, purple, and white, and the blue on these is going to be base. The purple on all of them is the collector, and then the white on all of them is the emitter, okay? So I went ahead and labeled all of them, okay? And I looked at them to see where the center was, where the pins were off center on it, okay? So these pins here were north of the middle, which then meant the one on the right was east, okay, and that's the emitter, and then the body is the collector, and the one that's left is the base. Now, when you're looking at this from underneath, okay, I want to show you guys something, if it'll focus, okay, because when we tested the transistor on the desk over there, we tested it, it wasn't in the transistor holder, which is this thing here, okay, so this piece of metal and this screw is the same as the collector, because this is making contact with that metal body, okay? So all you gotta do underneath, when you're testing from underneath, is put your lead on the screw or this metal plate when you wanna hit the collector, because that is grounded, that is making contact with the body, okay? All right, so why don't we go ahead and test one of these underneath, okay? And again, remember, I have these unplugged from the chassis. They are not in circuit, okay? Because you cannot test these in circuit, you need to unplug it. You have to unplug it, okay? So I'm going to come here with my meter, and maybe we can figure out a way to show this and the meter at the same time. No. What if we test this one down here first? Okay. All right, so we're going to test this one right here, and this is a... that one is Q706, which is a 2N3792, and it's a PNP style, okay? And I already went ahead and labeled the base, the emitter, collector, and if you look in here, you can see that those little legs are poking through right here. See that? There's a leg right there, and then there's another leg right here. So when those legs that we tested on the transistor on the table over there, when you push them into this game, they go into this socket here, and then the legs poke out on the other side, and then we can touch them. We can touch the legs and then test them. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this one. Set your meter to the diode test. We already did that. Okay, connect the red meter to the base. Okay, which is going to be right here. Okay, and test the black to the emitter, okay? And this, by the way, is a PNP, which is a 9-2, okay? And somebody's going to come in here and do that. and I'm not getting any reading, okay, and it says a good PNP transistor will read open, okay, and that's what's happening. There's no reading. Leave the red meter where it is, and then put the black one on the collector. I'm going to go ahead and put it on this screw, and again, we get no reading, okay, that's good. So now we're going to reverse, okay, and we're going to put the black on the base and the red on the emitter, and now we should get a reading between 0.5 and 0.9, and you can see we're getting 0.5, okay, so that's good. Okay, connect the red meter to the emitter, okay, and the base. A good PNP will read 0.4, okay, leave the black where it is and move the red to the collector, and now we should be getting the same reading, which is about 0.45 to 0.9, and we are getting 0.579. Okay, so now we want to place 1 meter lead on the collector and the other on the emitter, and we should get no reading. And we get no reading. And then we want to do the same thing, and then we get no reading. Okay, so that transistor is testing good. Okay, so now why don't we go ahead and try one of the 16s, okay, which is right here. And this is an NPN style, okay? And I documented that on here. It is a 2N3716, and it's an NPN style, okay? And again, I labeled everything base, collector, emitter. I'm telling you, man, when I started working on this earlier today, I was just confusing the hell out of myself, and labeling this was the best thing I ever did. Yeah, it's a little ugly on the bottom of the game, but I'm telling you, it really allowed me to wrap my head around what I was doing. I mean, seriously. So, okay. All right, so let's test this one. Again, it's an NPN. Okay, so we're going to put our red meter on the base and the black on the emitter. Red on the base and the black on the emitter. And this is a NPN, so the NPN should read between 0.4 and 0.9. We're getting 0.559, okay? It says 0.559, okay? And then we're supposed to leave the red and move the black, and then we should get the same reading. I know you guys can't see the meter, you just have to trust me. I'm getting a reading now of 0.55, same thing, okay? So that so far is good. Now we're gonna reverse our leads, and now we should not get a reading, and we don't, okay? And now we're gonna move our red to the collector, and we should not get a reading, and I'm not getting a reading, okay? And now we're gonna go emitter to collector, and we should get no reading. I'm not getting a reading. Reverse those, emitter to collector, no reading. I'm not getting a reading. So that one is testing good, okay? So let's go up here. Now those were ones that I replaced on December 21st, okay? So I had a feeling those were still good. So let's go and test this guy up here, okay? And this one is a 92, okay? It is a 2N3792, and it is a PNP, okay? See if we can somehow get the meter in here. There we go. Maybe that'll work. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and test that one just like we did the other ones. And this is a PNP, okay? And we're gonna put our black red meter to the base. Again, I'm just reading from the FAQ. Put the red meter on the base and the black meter on the emitter, okay? And a good PNP will read open, meaning there's no reading, okay? We should get no reading when we do this. Okay. Yeah, we're getting no reading, okay? So red on the base, connect the black, red to the base and the black to the emitter, and we should get no reading. And we're getting no reading. And then put that to there, we should get no reading. The base, put the black to the collector, we should get no reading, and we're getting no reading, okay? Now we're gonna switch them, and we're gonna put our black on the base and our red on the emitter, and we should get a reading, and we are 0.56. And now we take our red and put it on the collector, and we should get the same reading, and we are 0.56. And then the last test, we put our black on the emitter, and we put our red on the collector, and we should get no reading. And look at that, we got a short, okay? There's a short there. And if we switch them, look at it. So we have a short there. So that one is bad, okay? And it's shorted. When you hear that beep sound, that means that there's a short. Okay, so now we know that that one's bad. So I'm going to be replacing that one. Because when you get no reading, it doesn't change from this 0L, which is like zero load, I think. But when you touch things together, you know, it creates a short, okay? And that's what we have there. We're getting a short. Okay, so that one is bad. And so now I want to test the ones that are on top here, okay? And we're going to replace that one that just tested bad. Okay, so let me show you what we're going to do here. So we need to test these guys on the top here, and it's actually really hard to get in here with a multimeter, okay? However, here's the plug that goes to these transistors, right? These plugs go to these transistors. And remember my little cheat sheet here, because I labeled them. Remember, I figured out what colors are what, okay? So if you look here, the blue and the green are the base. And by the way, the blue goes to the 9-2 and the green goes to the 16, and that's kind of the scheme here. So the blue, white, and purple are the 9-2s, base emitter and collector, and then the green, yellow, and red are for the 16s, and that's the base, the emitter, the collector, okay? So this plug right here, there's 6 wires on it. 3 go to one transistor and 3 go to the other, okay? So this right here is the 9-2, okay? And that one is using this wire here, the purple, the blue, and the white. And then this one here is a 16, and the yellow, green, and red are what's going to this one, okay? So we're gonna test these transistors right here on this plug, okay? And you could do that, you know, because I can't get underneath very easily. So we'll just test it right here on this plug, okay? So let's go ahead and put our meter in the picture. Okay, and we're gonna test it the same way, but just using my little cheat sheet with the colors, okay? So let's test the 9-2 first, which is using the blue, white, and purple wires, okay? And so we wanna put our black meter on the emitter, and if I look on here, white is the emitter, okay? So here's the Molex plug. Let me show you what we're gonna do, okay? So the Molex plug right here, these holes go onto the pins, okay? But there's also these little bare metal areas on the back here. That's where I'm gonna put my leads, okay? And that's how we're gonna test. And these little pieces of metal go right to these wires, and these wires go directly to the transistor. So it's no different than testing it here on this connector as on the transistor, because all these wires are soldered directly to that transistor. So I hope I'm making sense here. All right, let me turn our meter back on. Okay, so we're gonna put the plug here, and okay, again, I'm gonna look at this. It says put the black meter on the emitter. If I look at my little cheat sheet here, the emitter is the white wire, okay, which is the third one down. It goes purple, blue, white. So I'm gonna put it on the third little contact there, okay. And then the instructions on the FAQ say connect the black meter to the emitter and the red to the base. And I look at my little cheat sheet here. The base is blue, which is the second wire, okay? And we should be getting a reading. This is a PNP. A good PNP will read open. Look at that, we're getting a reading. Already it's bad, it already failed the test. We should be getting no reading right now because this is a PNP, and when the black is on the emitter and when the red is on the base, we should be getting no reading. We should be getting an open reading, and we're getting a reading of 1.80 volts, okay? So we already have a problem here. Okay, let's continue the test. So now we want to leave the red where it is and place, leave the red meter on the base and move the black to the collector. Looking at my cheat sheet, purple is the collector, so we're gonna go ahead and leave the red where it is and move this, and then we should be getting the same reading we are, okay, 1.8, which is bad because we should be getting no reading right now on a PNP in this position. We should be getting zero load. Okay, so now we're going to reverse these, okay, and we're going to place, reverse the meters. This time connect the black to the base and the red to the emitter. So the base is blue, which is the second wire, and then the red to the emitter, which is white, which is the third one in, and we should be getting a reading of 0.5. Well, we're getting the right reading, but you know we already failed one of the tests here, so it's definitely we're definitely going to replace this transistor, but in this position, we are getting a good reading. And then it says the reading should be the same, blah, reverse the meter leads. Okay, a good P&P. Leave the red meter where it is, and then we're going to move the black over here, and we should get the same reading. And we're not. We got a short. Wait. So we got 0.5. Good P&P will read up. Leave the red lead on the base. And the red is on the base, right? The white. No, wait. Hang on. So, blah, blah, blah. Leave the red meter on the base. Move the black. Okay, the reading should be the same. And then it says, this time connect the black to the base. We have black on blue, which is base. Okay. And then, I'm just double checking what I'm doing here. And then connect the red to the emitter, which is white. Okay, that's what we have right now. We have 0.555. Okay, connect the red. We should have gotten 0.45 to 0.9, and we're getting that. Okay, and then we want to leave the black where it is and move the red to the collector, which is this one. And we should get the same reading. Okay, we are. All right, so I actually wasn't doing that second half right. All right, so the second test here has passed so far. So far we've failed one of two tests. Okay. Now the third test is we want to place. Let's see. Leave the black. No. The meters. Reverse your meter leads. The meters. Okay. Junction drop. I'm looking for the final test here. Place 1 meter lead on the collector and 1 on the emitter. Okay, so the collector is gonna be purple, and then the red goes on the emitter, which is white, and we should get no reading. And we got a short. Okay, and then the other half of that test is just reverse these, and we got a short. Okay, so this transistor is definitely hosed. Okay, so what we need to do is replace them and see what happens, okay? And we're going to do that right now. And so hopefully you guys understood and followed what I was doing there, but it's really not that hard to do. And this 6100 FAQ is just amazing. You guys need to seek this document out because, listen, I didn't know how to do this stuff till I read it. You know, this document's what taught me how to do this. So if I can figure it out, trust me, you can figure it out because I had no idea how to test these transistors in this game until I read that document. So, okay, let me get set up here. We're gonna change those transistors. All right, guys. So the first thing I want to do here, and by the way, I need to mention something. Okay, I am not, and I did not discharge this monitor. Okay, you guys need to be careful with these monitors. Okay, these monitors hold voltage, and it can shock you. Could give you a heart attack. Who knows what's going to happen? What could happen? You got to be aware of that. I am not discharging this monitor for a couple reasons. One, I don't have an HV probe. You really should discharge these monitors with a, you're going to short them basically to ground with a resistor in between. And I do not have that on hand, so I'm not discharging the monitor. However, I'm not going to be touching any of the areas that are connected to that, okay? It's going into this HV cage over here. We're basically just dealing with the chassis over here. However, when I remove the neck board here, I'm going to be extra careful, okay? I'm not going to touch anything. I'm just being careful, okay? All right? I think fairly low risk of touching this, but just be aware of it. Okay, don't do anything stupid. Don't get jerky, okay? So just know that this crap here can hurt you, and know that this tube right now has a charge in it because we did not discharge it, right? But what we're doing right now isn't really interacting with that. Everything is disconnected from the HV side of things. We're only working on the deflection PCB, which is over here. Inside this cage is all the high voltage stuff, okay? We're dealing with all the stuff on this board, which is not directly connected to that. Okay, so anyway. So I already have all these plugs off, okay? Because we unplugged them to test the transistors, okay? So just make sure everything's unplugged. We got to remove the deflection board here. We're going to have to also pop off this guy right here. See that little Molex connector? This monitor actually has a single connection to the PCB and the power, and it's this little Molex connector right here. And this thing could be a bear to get off. So let me see if we can get it off. Just got to push this little tab in and then just get it out. Okay, so that's off. All right, and then we got to get these screws off down here. Little nuts. I just have my nut driver here. And the reason I'm removing the deflection PCB is because we need to get to the transistors that are underneath it. Because one of the bad ones is underneath it. So there's just no other way. So just basically unplug all the Molex connectors. And then you could just pull this guy out. Like so, okay? This board is actually in really good shape. Really clean. It's had some work on it. This whole section here has been rebuilt. I could see that. That somebody that I think knew what they were doing rebuilt this. They put some jumper wires over some of the traces. Not sure why. Maybe just as a preventative measure. But overall, this board looks pretty good. So I really hope and think that these transistors we're about to change here is going to fix our problems. Okay, so... Alright, so the one that we want to change is right here, okay, and the other one is right over here. Okay, so let's get this guy first, okay, and I'm just going to take my screwdriver and you're just going to unscrew this. Now these are socketed in, okay, and you really shouldn't have to use a soldering iron or anything to remove these, because they just kind of just click into the socket and then you just click them out. However, someone did some work on this monitor and they soldered the legs, the pins on the transformer to the socket. So we're going to need a little bit of heat to get this off. So I'm going to have to go ahead and lift the monitor up again to get to the bottom. And be careful, guys, because if you crack that neck, you're going to be a sad, sad person. Because that would be the end of this monitor. You know, this neck right here is, if that were to crack, basically the vacuum that's in there would come out and the monitor would be garbage. You'd have to go find a new tube. All right, so okay, so here's the one that's bad right there. And again, someone put these jumper wires on here, okay? So I'm going to need some heat to get rid of this stuff. So I think they suspected the sockets were not great. You should not have to normally do what I'm doing right now. Have to deal with it. You shouldn't even have to use a soldering iron, okay? You should be able to just yank the old transistor out of the socket and that's it. But I gotta get rid of this solder that's on here. So I'm just gonna come in here and heat this up. Just try to suck it off. Okay, so that's basically how it should look for most people. You can kind of see in there. So now I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to put my hand on the transistor and we're just going to see if we can wiggle this guy off. And I might need to add a little bit of heat, just because there's solder on it. It looks like it's going to come off. There we go. Okay, so we've got the socket off. And now this transistor should just pop off. Come in here. Okay, so here's our old transistor. Okay, so now let's talk about a couple things here, okay? If you look on here, it has this little insulator on here. See that? And you have to have this on your transistor, okay? Because this basically prevents the body of this, the collector, with shorting to the frame, okay? This is basically a barrier that goes in between the transistor and the metal frame, and if you didn't have this on there, it would be metal to metal, and you would get a short to the frame, and you'd blow fuses and all that crap. So you need to replace this, or we reuse the one that's on there if it's in good shape. Now you can see there's all kinds of white crap on here. What the hell is that? Well, it is this. It is silicone heatsink compound, okay? Silicone heat sink compound. This is the stuff you got to use. Don't use anything else. Use this. It's non-conductive, okay? And what you do is you basically just put a little dab on here and then put your little mica. They call this a mica or an insulator. And I'm going to replace this because I already have one. So let me grab our new transistor, okay? Okay, so we have a new transistor and we have a new mica right here, okay? And you can see we don't have any of that heatsink compound on here, and we're going to put some on, okay? And this transistor I'm actually holding in this hand I have used before to test something. It is a brand new transistor and it is good. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little of this heat sink compound, just a little bit of a dab, and just put it on the metal, okay? Don't put too much of this on there, guys, because it makes a freaking mess, and it makes it really hard to solder. Okay, now, remember this thing is kind of not centered. These legs are not centered, okay? And that's important too when we put this back in, because it only goes in this socket one way, okay? So the legs are not centered. They're north of the center here, and same thing with the insulator. So we're gonna make sure we put this on the same way, and you can see it doesn't take much of that heat, that compound there. It just kind of spreads out, right? And then I'm gonna put a little bit on the back side too, where it meets the frame, okay? Okay, so now I'm going to go in the other side. All right, I'm looking at here. So you can see that these two holes are for the legs, and they are north of the middle. Okay, so these legs here are now north of the middle. So I know that it goes in like this. Okay, I'm coming in on the other side. Okay, and you can see the legs poking through right there. See that? Okay, now very, 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 very important. Okay, when you're putting these in, these legs cannot, under any circumstance, touch the frame, okay? They need to just go through those holes in the center. If they're off to the side and they're touching the frame like that, that is a short. You're going to blow a fuse and it's going to drive you insane. Trust me, it's happened to me. When I rebuilt my asteroids monitor, I accidentally had one of the legs touching the frame. I powered the game on after I rebuilt it, and bam, blew the fuse. I did some research online, and sure, everyone said, oh yeah, you probably shorted one of the transistors to the frame. Okay, and I did. I had a leg touching. So you got to make sure that stays in the middle, okay? And then, also, you know, we've got that mica, the little insulator in between. That's also protecting you from a short. You got to have a good insulator in between. Okay, so now I'm going to go on the other side, and I'm just going to throw my screws in, like so. Because I want to just kind of get everything lined up right, because it's got to go through the mica. It's got to go through the screws have to go through the transistor and the mica. Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right, so now we take our socket and we just push it on the legs, and as we tighten it up, just get it started on the legs here. Okay. I'm just pushing these socket onto the leg. Of course, I got the screws in the way. I kind of wanted the screws there because they were keeping that mica in the right spot. There we go. And the screws fell out, whatever. Alright, so this kind of drops in like so. And it is kind of hard to put these on wrong because there is, you know, those legs are off-centered. The socket won't let you put it in the wrong way. But just be aware that you could put it in the wrong way, I suppose, if you really used a lot of brute force. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these screws up. Okay. All right, so we've got that installed. All right, we've got a new transistor. It's in. And I'm just looking at the socket here because, you know, these sockets can go bad. I'm not sure why someone installed jumpers on there. They don't look bad to me, but it's hard to say. But I'm not going to put the jumpers back on. But why don't we test that that one really quick? Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and test it. Because remember before we were getting a short. We had a dead short on that thing. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. Let's see here. Connect the red to the base and the black to the emitter. Okay. Red to the base, black to the emitter. Okay. My meter just went out. Okay, so red to the base and black to the emitter. Okay, we should be getting good P and P will read open. Then we move our black to the collector, and we still get open. Now we reverse them. Black to the base, red to the emitter. We should be getting 0.5. We're getting 0.6. And then move the red to here. We should be getting the same. Okay, good. Now we put one on the emitter, one on the collector. We should be getting no reading. One on the collector, one, no reading. Okay, so that's it. That's a good transistor. And you'll notice I was putting my leads on the wires and not the actual legs of the transistor. The reason I was doing that was to make sure that these sockets were good. Okay, because if I just read it right from the leg here, I don't know if the connecting from, because basically you see this little socket here, okay? That's connected to this tab that goes to this blue wire, okay? The wire itself isn't directly soldered to the leg. It goes in, this wire is basically connected to the socket, okay? So if I put it on the socket end and I get a reading, I know that the socket's working, okay? And the other thing we're gonna test here, I'm gonna put my meter on continuity, okay? And you want to make sure that this is not shorted to the frame, okay? And one way to do that is to put your meter on the collector and then this on the frame. And if you get a beep, that means it's shorted. That means that the legs are touching the frame. It would sound like this. See? We're not getting that. Remember, the screw is the collector. This screw goes to the body. That means that that body of that transistor is not touching the frame. Otherwise, we'd get this sound. Okay, so that one is installed correctly, and it's working. Okay, so now we got to do the other one. So let me. Not that hard, right? I sure hope this fixes it. That's. I don't know. I can't wait to see if this fixes it. Okay, so let's put the monitor back down. Again, guys, high voltage. Watch yourself around that, okay? That will bite you. That will hurt. Okay, so the one that we're gonna replace now is this guy right here. Okay, it's that guy right there. And same deal, we're gonna unscrew it. And again, you can see there's screws on these, on the tops, okay? And that's all you need to do to remove them, is just take those screws out and then it'll pop out of the socket.
On your mark. Get set.
Okay. And we have those jumper wires on there again, so I'm gonna have to get rid of those. See if we can get a better camera angle here. Alright. This is fun. Are we having fun? Oh, look at that. Well, well, well. Would you look at that? That wire just popped off of there. That's interesting. So we're gonna have to resolder that. I think I just did that though. All right, let's get these wires off of here. Okay. I wonder if the problem here was that purple wire and it wasn't the transistor. We'll find out. Ow. Okay. Alright. So, of course, we've got tons of solder on here. Okay, get this other leg right here. Get it all off. All right, so let's see if we can get this out now. Okay. So here's our old one. I want to test this thing actually because it'd be funny if the reason it wasn't working is because this wire was loose on here. So let me strip this wire. So I'm going to reinstall. Get all this old crappy solder off of here. Can you guys see what's going on there? So the purple wire is the collector, and that wire fell off of the little socket here. So we're just gonna reinstall that wire. Now I don't know if that's what was causing our problem here, and why that didn't pass the test, because it's highly possible that that purple wire just was not on, and we were getting a failing test. So we'll see. Just trying to get all this solder off this socket here so we can solder the wire back on. Ouch. Alright. Ow. Hot. Just gonna wrap it around. I'm just kind of wrapping the wire around the leg, and now I'm going to throw some solder. Hope you guys can see that. Alright, so let's throw some solder on there. It's kind of tricky to solder because it's moving all around. Just stay still. kind of just double check my work. Ouch! Hot! Just make sure that all these are on here pretty well. I don't like how that one seems. I'm going to reflow that. Just going to reflow all the little headers on there. The wires. Might as well, I got it out. Okay. Okay. Alright, so that's good. I want to test this guy real quick, because I'm a little suspicious now. Take this mic off. Alright, so this is a 9.2. Just gonna put it down there like so. Because I'm not sure if that purple wire business was something that I just did, or was that all along like that, and that might have been what was causing our problems. Where's my meter? Okay, so let's just test this real quick. Alright, so we're going to put our red to the base and the black to the emitter, and we should get no reading. Yeah, we're still getting a reading. Okay. Yep, so this guy is definitely bad. And reverse it, we should get 0.55. And then put the red here, 0.55. And here we should get nothing. Oops. Short. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is definitely bad. So I must have yanked that purple wire out. So, okay, let's go ahead and replace this guy. Okay, so we're going to get a new insulator here. And put a little of that heat compound on here, which, where did I put that? Here it is. And so I just want to put just a little dab on here, not much. Like so. And again, there is the pins on here off center. So we got to make sure that our little mica, our little insulator lines up with that. Okay. See there. Okay. Okay, and then our socket also has the little sockets on there off center, matching the holes here, and I could see that it's going to go in like this. The holes are favoring this side here, and same with that, so just make sure this all lines up. Actually, I wanted to put a little of that compound on this side too. Just a dab. Don't really want to overdo it on that stuff. Just trust me, it wreaks havoc when you're soldering if you get it all over the legs. But we're not going to be soldering right now, so. But just from experience, if you put too much on there, it just makes a big mess. Alright, we just throw our screws in. So that's it. I mean, you can see it's really not hard to change these. I mean, you got to take the whole monitor apart. I mean, that's kind of the bummer of it, but if you have these kind of solderless connections, not too big of a deal here. Okay, so I do want to test that transistor again. I want to make sure that we didn't short the legs to the frame. One way to do that, of course, is we're going to put this on continuity test. And if we have continuity, we'll get a beep like this. So we're going to just touch the body in this, and we're getting no beep. So our legs are not shorting. Wait. Because otherwise you'd get... Not hearing it. This side the material that's on these sides here has like a hammered finish paint on here, I think. That's causing it that's kind of making it hard to detect a short. If I go to screw though. So yeah, it's not shorted. Okay, so let's test that transistor really quick. Just to make sure that it's cool and we don't have a short. I'm just gonna kind of double check my work here. So I'm just gonna come in and go here to here. Got no reading. No reading, that's good. Now we're gonna flip them and now we should get a reading.
On your mark.
Not. Let me just see here. Oh, duh. It's not a diode test, idiot. Okay, so 0.59. Now if I move this here, I should... I move the black. Alright, so 0.59, I've moved the red to the collector. 0.59. Now if I reverse them, we should get no reading. Then no reading. And then no reading. No reading, so we're good. Okay, so that's good. It's working. It's installed. It's passing our tests. So we're ready to just put this monitor back together. And again, guys, high voltage. Just be aware of that bad boy right there. It can bite you. So when you're putting this back together, just watch where your hands are. You know, alright, let me get the deflection PCB. Where is it? Oh, it's over here. So come over here and just wiggle these wires, make sure everything's cool. So, okay, so we're going to put this back on, basically just do the opposite of what we did when we removed it. And it goes like this. So we're just going to lift up all our connectors. Get that wire out of there. I really hope this fixes this. Actually, I want to check those fuses too while we got this out. I'm not sure if I put a new fuse in there or what. When you test fuses, you want to use your multimeter, put it on continuity. If you have a short, if the fuse is bad, it'll beep like that. So let me just go ahead and test this one. That one's good.
On your mark.
That one's bad.
Get set.
So F600 blew the last time I tried this. So let me go get a F600. So you always want to check your fuses with your multimeter. You put it on continuity, which is this guy right here. Okay? And if you get a beep, that means you've got a connection. If you don't get a beep, that means it's dead. Right there. See that? It's dead. No beep. So let me go get another fuse. This is a 3 amp fast blow fuse. One sec. Okay, I went and grabbed some 3 amp standard blow fast blow fuses. I buy these from Bob Roberts. I actually, you know, when I place orders with him, I'll just stock up on fuses. I just have a big bag of fuses on hand at all times, and let me tell you, it's super handy. So I'm going to go ahead here and just replace that fuse on the deflection board. Okay, so let's go ahead and just double check my fuses again. Beeping is good. It's good. It's good. Okay, so the fuses are all good. And I'm just going to put the deflection board back in place here. Make sure all of our Molex connectors are above the PCB. And this guy right here just clicks in like so. And then we need 2 screws to hold this guy in. Okay, so now we need to just put all our Molex connectors on here. Now I have everything labeled, most of it, okay? So like this one right here, I have 3 lines, okay? And that goes, it goes right over here. That one's got 4. Let me see. Okay, so this one's got 2 lines. It goes here. And this one's got 1 line. This goes right here. So what I did is I drew a line on the Molex and I drew a line next to the connector on the PCB just so I didn't confuse myself. So like on this one here I wrote neck. So that goes onto the neck board, okay? This one back here is the degaussing coil. Goes to this 2-pin one. And it's my understanding if you don't put this guy in, you'll get like a burning smell, which is bad. Okay, that's number 4. So let's see here. This goes like this. This goes here. Neck. And then this must go here. Okay. And then this goes to the neck. Okay. And this has these have keys on it. You can see there a little key, which kind of prevents you from putting it on the wrong way. So you can only go on there this way. It will not go on this way because of that key. It hits the pin. So fortunately, it's hard to put them on the wrong way. Okay, so we're going to carefully, let's see, the neck's got 3 wires. So just carefully put that on there. And then we've got these 3 wires, and I got black, white, and brown. I wrote on the board here black, brown. So don't be afraid to label stuff. You know, it's better than making a mistake, okay? So right now I'm just kind of double checking my work, making sure all the Molexes are on evenly on the plugs and we don't have like it off by 1 pin or something. So just kind of double check your work. Take your time. There's no rush to get this thing plugged back into the game. And I don't see anything loose. Every connector has a plug in it. I'm just double checking my transistor work over here. Looks pretty good. So we are ready to try this. I'm a little nervous. So, all right, let me get the game all set up over there, and let's put this back in. This is always fun. Alright. Alright guys, we got the monitor in. And I'm not going to bolt it down just yet. We'll do that afterwards. So it's come back here, and there is 1 single Molex connector that is right here, and it just plugs in. And this 1 connector does everything. power, video, which is nice. Wish all games were like this. So let's go ahead and put that on there. Okay, we're ready to try this. I'm kind of nervous. So, alright, let's plug this bad boy in. So, let's come over here. Okay, and it looks like I have the switch off. So, we'll just go ahead and hit that switch. And as I turn this on, I'm going to keep my eye on the fuses. Make sure nothing blows. Okay, that's good. It's a good sign so far. Because that F700 before was glowing red when I turned it on. So it looks like I haven't visually seen us blow fuses yet. So let's go to the front. It usually does take a couple minutes for this monitor to warm up. And I really hope we see a picture here. Just gotta wait. I don't think so, man. I don't think we have any HV. Oh. I hear the chatter. Damn it. Nothing. We got nothing here. Let me see if we have neck glow. If we do, we have very faint neck glow. I could see it. We're just kind of looking in there. You could see very slight glow. Spot killer's not on. Let me see if the PCB is actually running. Yeah, it is. Oh, I smell something burning. I think. No. Let me turn up the... I smell something burning. Let me turn it off. Fuck. Okay, guys. Yeah, monitor's not working. I'm starting to think I have a problem in the HV section. I'm almost starting to wonder if my flyback is bad. Because I have very, very faint neck glow. I don't seem to get that kind of staticky feel on the front of the monitor, which kind of tells me that it's not getting the high voltage from the flyback. I am not blowing fuses, though. Okay, so I think that we fixed one problem, but not all the problems. I think that whatever happened here might have taken out a couple of those transistors, which we just fixed, because we're not blowing fuses. We don't have the spot killer on. I'm thinking that the issue lies inside the high voltage section of this monitor, and so I think I'm going to order a rebuild kit from Bob Roberts, and we're gonna pop this open. We're gonna do this in another video. I'd like to pop this open soon, though, to take a look at the flyback. I need to get the right tool to discharge this monitor, though, because I don't have it. And because if you just use a screwdriver, like how I normally discharge like raster monitors, with this monitor you can ruin, there's a diode in there or something, you can ruin the tube, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to discharge this monitor properly, and really, before I can get inside here and start working on the HV side of things, I need to discharge that. So I'm probably going to go online and try to find some kind of a discharge tool for this. They actually make, God, what are they called? The HV probe. You can use an HV probe to do that, or you can make your own with a series of resistors. I'm probably going to find a cheap HV probe on eBay for $10 or something, and I'm going to look at ordering rebuild kits for this monitor. I really don't think my issue is the low voltage section. I think it's HV now, because I just don't feel any static on the screen. You know, it's like it's not energized, and that kind of starting to make me think it's the flyback. And I wonder if I remove this cage and look at it, I might find a cracked flyback. So who knows? transistors. So anyway, that's going to conclude this video. You know, what we did do, you know, testing the transistors and all that, I think that was good stuff that we did there. But we did not fix this, so this is going to be continued into another video. So stay tuned, guys. Hopefully we can get this game working soon. So, I guess that's it. Hey, by the way, you guys ever want to see the back of ice cold beer? I got it out right now. You can see how it looks and works, but these are the pulleys right here, and I had to replace those belts, because those belts, you can see them right here. These are the belts. So they go around these little wheels, these little pulleys, and there's little motors here. It's very simple, really, how it works. And this is kind of like the play field, I guess, with light bulbs. And I don't have a back door for this game, and I never did, and I never felt the need to make one. I just kind of threw the game down here, and the spiders have moved into this game. This thing is just full of spider webs, but pretty simple game, really. So anyway, all right, guys, that's it. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you guys out there are, you know, got any 6100 tips, I am all ears, because you know, we fixed a couple things, but we're not out of the woods yet, are we? So anyway, thanks for subscribing to my channel. I release new videos every Sunday and sometimes in between, like this video. So if you guys want to see all my videos or keep up with my videos, you got to press subscribe. Just go ahead, click subscribe. That way you guys know when the new stuff comes out. Check out my podcast, Arcade Outsiders, at arcadeoutsiders.com. And my other podcast, Video Game Outsiders, at videogameoutsiders.com. We do both of those. Look at how the games are all moved around here. But we do both those podcasts every Tuesday. 9 p.m. Eastern is Video Game Outsiders. 11 p.m. Eastern, Arcade Outsiders. Both at allgames.com. We're also doing Video Game Outsiders right now as a video podcast live on YouTube at youtube.com/VGOcast. That's right, you guys can see me in front of the camera. So, all right, that's it. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.